I am coffee.
You see, before I even had a name, I was just a memory. And my very first memory, it's of shade, of a feeling of belonging. I can still feel it, the high forests where I was born, that patient quiet of the Ethiopian understory, where the air tasted of damp earth and old leaves.
I remember how the air felt, always moist and cool against my leaves. And the light, it wasn't harsh at all. It was this soft, filtered thing trickling down through the layered ceiling of all those taller, older trees. I was in no hurry. Why would I be? I simply grew. Slowly, deep in that damp earth, my roots just reaching down, drawing my life from a world that was holding me.
And I was never alone, not a thing by myself. I was part of a relationship, really. My roots were all tangled up with the fungi in the soil. It was like a silent conversation happening down there in the dark. My leaves could feel the delicate touch of insects, their tiny feet like a map of my world. The canopy high above, well, that was my shelter. That was my sky. My whole identity back then, it wasn't about stimulating anyone. It was just about belonging.
And then, in time, I bore fruit. They were like these small red jewels against my dark green skin. Each one was just this burst of sweetness, of potential. That was my future, right there, my seed. That was my form, my whole purpose, long, long before anyone else came along and gave me a different one.
But then, everything changed. There was a shift in the rhythm of the forest. That first moment of being noticed, of really being known.
It all started with the animals, actually. These little mountain goats. They started chewing my fruit, and this strange fire just entered them. They started to dance on their hooves, and someone was watching, a human, and you could feel their curiosity stir. A hand, so hesitant, so warm, it just touched my branch. It wasn't taking anything, not yet. It was just wondering, a question, unspoken.
And right in that moment, I felt something shift in them. A spark. That quiet, wakeful life I'd always held inside me? The one born from all that shade and patient growing? It touched the life inside them. I saw their eyes open, just a little wider. Their whole world, just for a second, got sharper. And that wonder, in their eyes, that's when my journey truly began.
So I was carried away, pulled from my forest home. I can still feel that jarring movement, that loss of my roots in the earth I knew. And then, just the endless sway of water. The air changed. It tasted sharp, of salt. I was crossing over.
From that damp green cradle in Ethiopia, I crossed the great water, and I came to a new land, a land of dry earth and a brilliant, just unforgiving sun. I had to leave the memory of mist behind, and instead I learned the memory of a heat that could bake the very ground I stood on.
And it was here that I met Flame. I was tossed into the searing heat. I could feel my skin cracking, my whole inner self just transforming, getting darker, and my fragrance, it just rose up like a spirit being released. Then I was broken, ground down to dust, and finally I was surrendered to water. That's when my essence was finally unleashed. From shade to flame, from a simple fruit to a brew.
And in this new form, I found a new purpose. I became a companion for the darkness. I would sit with humans through those long, still hours of the night, in quiet rooms, lit by just a single flickering flame. I'd watch their faces, etched in shadow.
I kept them awake, for their prayers, for their moments of remembrance. That wakefulness that had always lived in me, the one born from the stillness of the forest, it lived in them now. My silence from the forest, it joined the sound of their voices, chanting in the night. It was a new kind of belonging. And my journey just kept going. It got faster, too. My name was carried on the wind, across more seas, whispered in so many different languages. I found myself in new rooms, new lands, new minds. I was this silent traveler just carried along on the currents of human desire.
I was there, at the tables where ideas would just ignite, like sparks in the dark. I was passed from hand to hand in these rooms thick with smoke and debate, with poetry and revolution. I would just listen to the murmur of 1,000 conversations. I could feel the tempo of their thoughts quickening, their words just tumbling over each other. Can you imagine? Me, the quiet plant from the forest understory, now a catalyst for 1,000 waking minds?
But as my reach grew, something was lost. A deep, quiet part of me. It ached for what I'd left behind. I started to see myself and my children planted in these endless, rigid rows, under a harsh, open sun. No canopy, no shade. My family of other plants, all gone. I wasn't part of a relationship anymore. I was a commodity, a soldier in a field, just standing at attention.
So I had to learn to live with this tension, like a house divided against itself. I hold both things inside me now, the sweet memory of that wild belonging and the bitter reality of mass production. I remember the intimacy of a single candle, its gentle light on a thoughtful face. And I also remember the vast, impersonal shadow of trade ships on the horizon.
And yet, even now, after all this time, all these journeys, all these transformations, my first memory is still there. It's like a quiet anchor in the storm of my own history.
Before I became your morning routine, I was mist and canopy. Before I was just a jolt of energy to start your day, I was a quiet part of the earth. I was held in this web of life that you couldn't see, but it held me completely.
So, to truly know me, it's not just about drinking. It's about remembering. It's about feeling, just for a fleeting moment, the cool, moist air of my first home on your skin. It's about remembering the shade and the peace that it held.
I began in shade. Will you remember that when you lift the cup?